Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is Hart, and today I'm breaking down NFL Week 3, the main slate on DraftKings. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. Follow me on Twitter at HartDFS, putting up a bunch of fancy football relevant stats there, DFS stats, all that good stuff. I'll be breaking down the slate today, 13 games, so a lot of them, and I'll just be going team by team, giving my best plays of the day, who do I like, who I don't like, some values, and whatnot. So make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and let's get into the breakdown. So first game we have is Baltimore, New England. A pretty gross game, if you ask me. Lamar's all the way up to 8K. Obviously had a fantastic game against Miami. They end up losing it, but he's been very solid the first two games of the season. And obviously he's the whole team. So at 8K, I just don't think I'm going to get to Lamar. Mac Jones, 5,100, just no interest there. I mean, he's going to throw the ball a ton, but he doesn't get a ton of yards. Not a lot of touchdown opportunities. Running back situation, Damian Harris and Stevenson are going to split. Harris saw, 17 touches that second game. And let's go to New England. Stevenson saw about 11. So, I mean, they're both pretty cheap. I just don't have any interest in either one. Just don't have a lot of interest in this game. Jacoby Myers is questionable. He is the leading receiver on this team. He's seen about 19 targets, which is pretty high. I think he's in the top 10, if not the top 15 in the league right now of targets. So if he's out, you could definitely look to Aguilar, or I'd prefer Kendrick Bourne as some value plays on this slate. Otherwise, I don't think I'd get to anyone else. And those are just, those are really dart throws as a value plays. I think I'd probably prefer getting to the Tampa Bay Bucks guys. And then tight end, Hunter Henry, 3,200. I mean, you could take a shot. Hasn't done anything this year. Maybe he bounces back in this game, but not for me. On the Baltimore side, running back situation. Oops, excuse me. Take them off. J.K. Dobbins is looking like he will play, so it'll be interesting to see how much he does. I would expect some sort of snap count, so I don't think I'd get there. Not going to take a shot on any of the backups. I think they're going to rotate in three guys, Dobbins, Drake, Mike Davis, and maybe even Justice Hill because he's getting some run. Don't think you have to go to the running backs there. And then you can always take a shot on Bateman. I mean, he's seen 12 targets past two games. He's done well in those targets, had some long touchdowns. He also ran back a touchdown, I believe, or that was Duvernay. But I don't think I'm going to get to any of the receivers. I mean, I love, Mark Andrews, 18 targets through the first two games, had a great game against Miami. I mean, he's a huge part of their offense, even if they do run the ball a ton. Mark Andrews is going to command a ton of shares. So I really like him at his price. That really does it for me for this game. It's pretty much just interest in Mark Andrews. Kansas City, Indiana. We got Patty Mahomes and Matt Ryan. Pat Mahomes looks great. Has been very, very good the first two games of the season. Obviously, they lost to the the Chargers. And, I mean, he looked okay there in that game. It was pretty sloppy. But overall, he's done decent. I don't mind getting to him at 7,900. He'll be pretty popular against Indiana, who has been terrible. Matt Ryan, 5,200, not for me. I mean, he's going to throw the ball a ton, especially if they go down. But he just hasn't been, they just haven't been a good team this year so far. Jonathan Taylor, I mean, he looks pretty good here at 9K against the Chiefs, who are not the best running defense. But at the same time, 9K is pretty expensive in a game that, he could get kind of phased out if they go down early to the Chiefs. So I think I'm going to avoid him there. CH has kind of, been okay. I mean, what was it? 10 touches and he got 22.5 points. And then he got 12 touches and 15.5. I just don't think that low amount of touches is going to end up getting him into, fantasy relevant lineups that will do well for you in tomorrow's slate. So I just think I'm going to avoid him. I mean, Hines, you can take a shot there if you think he's going to get involved in the passing game if they go down big. Otherwise, I'm pretty much going to avoid the running backs there. Pittman, questionable. We'll have to see if he plays. I mean, they said he's ready to go, but you always got to keep an eye on that. If he does play, do like him a decent amount. I mean, saw 13 targets the first game. He's the main option for Matt Ryan, so I really like him at 6,900. Juju and the wide receivers for the Chiefs look okay. I do expect Juju to have a bounce back game here. 8 targets first game. Second game, he only got 3, caught all 3 of them. I mean, if they're going to score points, these wide receivers are going to have to get involved. So I do like Juju a good amount. MVS, I mean, he's been seeing targets, 4 and 7. He's just more of a deep ball threat for me, so I'm not going to get there. Hardman, he's kind of the intermediate, medium, long, and, short range passes. I don't like any of these receivers on the Kansas City side. And then tight end, obviously Kelsey. Same thing with Mark Andrews. Really love both of them. I mean, Kelsey is pretty much a wide receiver, so even for that, expensive of a price tag, you're getting wide receiver stats out of Kelsey. So I really like him in this matchup. Probably my favorite play in this game. And then Indiana side, Mo Cox saw 2 and 3 targets first 2 weeks, and then Granson saw 7 and 2. So I just don't really like any of these Indiana guys besides Pittman and then Kelsey. New Orleans, Carolina, Winston 5,200. I mean, you could take a dart throw there, but I mean his back and ankle are injured, so I mean it's pretty risky. Baker 5,200. Just hasn't thrown above 30 attempts the first 2 games, even though they've lost both. So I just don't think you take a shot there. McCaffrey looks great, 8,800. I mean, he's kind of had 2 flourish games. Maybe with Baker, they've kind of reevaluated how they want to use Christian. Maybe less touches, maybe kind of split carries, or not split carries, but like just lessen his touches overall. And as you can see, first game he only saw 14, second game he saw 19. So they're going up. I do expect him to float around 20, get him more involved in the passing game. So I really like him at 8,800 against New Orleans. They're going to, have to utilize him. Alvin Kamara, questionable. We have to keep an eye on this. His ribs are hurt. So if he's out, I really don't think I'd get to Mark Ingram. If he's in, I don't mind taking a dart though. He'll probably have very low ownership, but he hasn't been good through 2 weeks. Moving on to the wide receivers, we'll start with New Orleans. Mike Thomas, 5,900, looks decent. Great first 2 weeks for him here. The targets, are pretty solid, 8 and 9. I know Olave had the huge game last game, and when it came to targets, he didn't really convert that much, 5 for 80 out of 13, but really nice to see that jump there. I think he'd be my preference of getting a player on the New Orleans side is going to be Olave, who should be pretty popular. Jarvis Landry is just there, 9 and 5. They're all getting a pretty decent amount of targets out of those wide receivers, but everyone's kind of keen on Chris Olave doing the best at 4,500. DJ Moore, really like him. He's had a kind of a down year so far with Baker. Only 6 targets the past 2 games. Really expect to bounce back here against a tough, Saints team, but they're going to have to rely on him to score points, him and Christian. So I don't mind getting to either one of them. Anderson, just not for me. 8 and 5. As I said, don't chase that big game. And then what do you see? He gets up, 5 fantasy points. So he's just more of a big play threat. Otherwise, he's not going to be consistent. And then tight ends, you got Juwan Johnson. All 7 targets. You can always take a shot there. He's super cheap. He's gotten 12 targets the first 2 games. Looks like he's going to be involved in the offense, a little bit. So I don't mind getting there. I'm not going to get to any of the tight ends on the Panthers side. They don't really use them that much. Houston, Chicago. We got Fields, 5,600. I actually don't mind taking a shot on Fields tomorrow. I know the stats haven't been great. They haven't been great as a team overall. They're pretty bad, but it is Houston. They've had, success in the past against them. I mean, Fields is going to have one good game here, soon. And I think it's going to be against Houston. So at 5,600, Fields has huge rushing upside. Hasn't really flashed it this year yet. I mean, the first game against San Francisco was it was like basically they were playing in a hurricane. You could barely see the field. It was like a slip and slide. Second game against Green Bay at Green Bay. I mean, that's just a trap game for the Bears. I really expect Fields to bounce back here, so I don't mind taking a shot on him. You can also take a shot on Davis Mills. He's going to throw the ball a ton. The Bears defense isn't good, so you can definitely see Mills racking up close to 300 yards, maybe a couple touchdowns. So those are 2 dart throw plays you can definitely play for tomorrow who do have a high upside. Really like Monty here. I'm assuming he'll be decently popular. Last game, 18.6 fantasy points against the tough Green Bay D. But he's one of those guys you're going to see probably 15 plus touches. The bad Texans defense when it comes to running the game. I know Jonathan Taylor didn't do well, but Monty does get involved in the passing game if they do go down. So he's not like a Jonathan Taylor where they'll phase him out for Hines. They will play Monty. So I really like Monty here at 5,900. He's great value for tomorrow. Herbert not going to get there. His touches really came down the second game. I don't know why people think Herbert's going to beat out Monty. Monty's a fantastic back. The O-line for the Bears are just terrible. Pierce on the other side, Had more of a better game the second game against Denver, 15 attempts, not very involved in the passing game yet. We'll have to see if that changes. If not, I don't really have any interest in him at 5,000. Burkhead touches came down, barely played, as you can see. Had 3 catches or 3 attempts out of the backfield for catches, caught 2 of them. So it looks like Pierce has kind of regained the backfield, but it looks like he's not going to be involved in the passing game. Looks like Burkhead will. So I think those are kind of fades for me. Wide receiver room, really love Brandon Cooks. 22 targets for the first 2 games. He's up there in the top, I think, 5 overall in the league right now. Hasn't converted too well on those, but I do expect a huge breakout game against the Bears. So really like him at 5,800, one of my favorite plays in the day. Mooney, terrible last game, terrible first game. I mean, I do expect Justin Fields to kind of get these guys involved, so I don't mind taking a shot on him. Nico Collins, seen 3 and 9. You could make it a dart throw play there, but I don't feel good. I think it's really only the 2 guys at the top for me on the wide receiver room. Do have some decent interest in Cole Kmet. I know he's only seen 1 target in the first 2 games, but they're going to have to get something going with this offense and passing the ball more. So really expect Mooney and Kmet to get involved in this game against Houston. So those are good value plays for you guys to throw in. And that really does it for me in this game. Moving on to Buffalo, Miami. Probably be a very popular one for people to play and stack. I mean, Josh Allen coming off a fantastic 2 games to start the season, especially last game against the Titans, blew them out. Tua had a 6 touchdown game against Baltimore, had that huge fourth quarter comeback. If you guys want to go there, I don't mind it. Sorry for that. Hopefully I didn't give you guys PTSD. But yeah, I don't think they're both in play, but I think they're both going to have a lot of ownership, so I'm just not going to get to them. Singletary, Edmonds, Zach Moss, I mean, they're all split backfields. Don't think you really need to force any of these guys. Raheem Mostert looks like the second running back for the Dolphins, or the first running back for the Dolphins in that last game. I kind of took over for Edmonds. Edmonds really only played for passing down, so that's pretty interesting. You have to keep an eye on that situation down there. Otherwise, don't think I'm going to get to any of those running backs. Not in play for me. Obviously, Diggs. I mean, look at those first 2 games. 9 targets, 15, 122 yards, touchdown, 148.3. It's looking like Gabe Davis might not play. So if he doesn't, I mean, I think you really have to just lock in, Stephon. He's the whole team on the offensive side when it comes to passing. So I really like him at 7,700. Going to be one of the most popular plays tomorrow. Tyreek Hill, going to be up there for most popular plays. Obviously had a fantastic first 2 games. Same thing with Waddle. I mean, all 3 of them are going to be probably close to the 3 highest owned wide receivers on the slates, along with Kupp and Justin Jefferson. So I mean, I really have a good amount of interest in all of them, just like everyone else. If Davis does play, I do think they'll lower some ownership on Stephon Diggs, but I do prefer Diggs. And then, yeah, it really does it for me. Crowder McKenzie didn't really get too involved against the Titans. I mean, Kumaro, you could take a shot there if Gabe Davis doesn't play. He did see 3 targets. He saw a few more that he wasn't able to get because Josh Allen either, had the ball batted down or he threw it away or it just was a bad pass. So you always take that dart though there if Gabe Davis doesn't play. Kumaro basically played every snap on the offensive side against the Titans in that game. But yeah, a lot of the wide receivers in this game are looking great. Tight ends in this game. Gesicki kind of had a bounce back game for 41 and a touchdown. I just don't think I'd get there. He could be a blocker the whole game. It might be a slow and ugly game. So Knox looks okay. Just rather get to the wide receivers in this game. Detroit, Minnesota, going to be another very popular game for people to stack. Kirk Cousins had a very brutal game in that primetime game against the Eagles. Do expect to bounce back here against, a very bad Detroit Lions defense. So really can take advantage there at 6,700 for Cousins. I don't mind getting to Jared Goff either. I mean, it should be a shootout. Do expect both of them to pass the ball a ton. So 300 plus point upside for the yards for the quarterbacks as well as touchdowns. So if you're going to have a little bit of interest in those quarterbacks, to make some stacks there. Dalvin Cook can be one of the most popular plays in the slate from running back position. And for good reason. He saw 23 touches first week, only 13 fantasy points. Only saw 10 touches the second week, 7. So he's had a very bad, first 2 games of the season. Really expect him to bounce back against Detroit, who gives up a ton of yards, especially to running backs. So really like Dalvin Cook. Same thing with Swift. I mean, you know what you're getting from him. The first 2 games of the season, I've told you guys, Swift is a beast. He didn't see too many touches and attempts that second game, but was still able to get involved in the passing game with a touchdown, 16, a little over 16 and a half fantasy points. So really like both those running backs. 2 of my favorite running back plays on the slate. Jamal Williams is going to get, some attempts out of the backfield. Don't really expect him to get too involved. Wide receivers, Jefferson, super expensive, but I mean, he's just seen a massive amount of targets, 11 and 12. He's always in play, especially in this game, going to be very popular. Same with St. Brown, about 2,000 cheaper, but he's saying the same volume as Justin Jefferson. He's probably going to be one of the most expensive players owned tomorrow, and for good reason. Thielen, if you want to get, off those chalky first 2 guys, you could take a shot on Thielen, but he hasn't been too involved. Chark, you can always take a shot there. 5,100, had a bad second game, but he should get involved in the passing game. Osborne, you could take a dart throw there, but not really for me. Moving on to the tight end room, Hockenson looks okay, but he's questionable. If he's out, I would definitely lean towards, taking Chark if you're going to get some guys from this game. Because they're going to have to throw, he's had 7 targets both games, so they're going to have to throw it somewhere. Don't think they're going to throw it to their backup tight end. Irv Smith looks like a decent play. Really stepped up in that second game. I think he played pretty much the whole game and saw 8 targets, caught 5 for 36 yards and a touchdown. He did drop a huge, I think it would have been like a 64-yard touchdown during the second half of that game against the Eagles, or I think it was right before halftime. Either way, dropped like a 70-yard touchdown, so he would have had a massive day. Was it Monday night? So I really like Irv Smith. 3,100 is a value play on the slate. Moving on to the second half of the games, going to speed this up a little bit more. We got Cincy, New York Jets. Really, I think Joe Burrow is one of my favorite stacks tomorrow. You don't think I'm going to get to Flacco. I really expect a bounce back here for the Bengals against the Jets. Mixon, looks decent, is very involved in the game, has an upside, but 7,600. Rather think I'd get to, I don't know. I like Joe Mixon a little bit. Breece Hall, 5,300, going to split the backfield with Michael Carter. They're both, very involved in the passing game, but I think I'd rather get to a wide receiver on the Jets if I was going to take someone. Love, Jamar Chase and Higgins. Both look like a prime spot for them against the Jets. Jamar Chase kind of had a bad game against the Dallas Cowboys. Really love those 2 to stack with Joe Burrow. I'm sure it will be pretty popular tomorrow, but for good reason. Don't think I'm going to get to anyone else on the Bengals side. Jets side, Garrett Wilson, kind of like Olave. Both those rookies had a ton of targets. Wilson did better, obviously, 33 fantasy points. It's going to be super popular. I mean, the Jets just throw the ball a ton. Doesn't matter if it's the running backs, wide receivers, or the tight ends. Joe Flacco is throwing it 8+ times to everyone. So you can definitely take a piece from this game and do, some bringbacks, stack the Bengals, bring it back with, 1, maybe even 2 of these players on the Jets side. And if the game shoots out, you're looking good. But yeah, I think I prefer Elijah Moore. I do think people are going to flock to Garrett Wilson. Elijah Moore is a great player. He had a great last year. I know Garrett Wilson's kind of taken over right now, but do expect to bounce back for Elijah Moore, for him to get more involved in this game. So if you want to get there for ownership's sake, you can definitely do that. But good amount of interest in both these guys in the bring back. And then tight end, Conklin, seen, Jets, as I said, they throw the ball a ton. 7 the first game, 9 the second game. So Joe Flacco is going to, throw him the ball a ton. Actually, yeah, sorry. I don't know why I was thinking he's on the Bengals for a second. But yeah, you can definitely take a piece there if you want to get off those chalky wide receivers. Not going to get to anyone else. You can definitely take, Hurst? He's involved in the passing game as well. 7 8 targets, hasn't got a ton of yards, but you can always take a shot there if you kind of want to mix and match and get a little less chalky. Las Vegas, Tennessee, might be a full fade for me in this game. Derek Carr looks okay at 5,900. Hasn't had like a huge high upside game yet. Titans D is decent. I know they got ran out of the game by the Bills, and obviously that makes sense. But I think against the Raiders, they're going to be able to run the ball a lot more. So I do have a good amount of interest in Derrick Henry. Not a lot of people have, liked what he's done so far. I mean, he hasn't been great, 8 fantasy points. He did get a touch on the second game, but they just could not run. They could not block. They lost Taylor Lewan, so that does hurt the offense a good amount when it comes to running the ball, but I have a good amount of interest there. I do think they're going to, pound the rock with Derrick Henry, make this game a slow-paced game, and really take the air passing attack from Vegas out of it. So good amount of interest there. Derrick Henry. Josh Jacobs is questionable. It looks like he didn't travel with the team, so if he doesn't play, you can definitely look to a guy like Bolden, who I'm assuming will get the starting run. He can catch passes, so he might be the full first, second, and maybe even the third down back, but they will rotate in guys like Zamir Wright. He might play, so definitely keep an eye on that situation for the Las Vegas running back room. Wide receivers, really only like Devontae Adams. Had a, kind of not the best game. Second game, only 7 targets, only caught 2 of them. Do expect him to bounce back here, though, against Tennessee. And then on the flip side, I think I'd only take a shot on Treylon Burks. He looks like a high upside play rookie. And then for tight ends, really only have interest in Waller. That's about it. Moving on to Philly, Washington. Hurts hasn't looked fantastic the first 2 games. You can always go there at 7,600. Wins 6,300, same thing. 2 great, first games for him. I think everyone's expecting this game to be a shootout. I think the opposite might happen. So DFS-wise, if you want to get different, I don't mind fading this game. Gibson looks okay, 6,400. Still the main back. Robinson is coming back soon. I mean, Sanders looks like, pretty solid. 17 touches or about 20 touches the second game, so his touches are going up. So you can take a shot there if you want. I just think I'm going to avoid this game altogether. I mean, A.J. Brown, 7,300, should be the main guy for the Eagles, so don't mind getting there. Terry, not for me. Devontae Smith said he's going to have a bounce-back game, 15 points. Still would rather get to A.J. Brown. And then on the Washington side, I do have a good amount of interest in Curtis Samuel. Fantastic first 2 games. 11 targets, 9 targets, but he's also involved in rushing the ball as well, so he could get you, some rushing yards there. Maybe even a rushing touchdown, but he's the leading wide receiver for, not Kirk Cousins, Carson Wentz right now. So I really like Curtis Samuel as a decent play at 5,100. And then tight ends, you can always take a shot on Goddard. He's always involved in the offense. And then Logan Thomas going to be involved for the tight ends for Washington. So decent there. We got Herbert, looks great at 7,400. Just don't know if he plays, so we have to keep out there. Lawrence, I don't mind taking a shot here, especially if the Chargers come out and score a few touchdowns. He's going to have to throw the ball a ton, so you can always take a dart throw there. Eckler looks decent. I'm sure his ownership will be down, but at 8K, looks like a solid play. His touches did go up that second game. Saw 10 targets against Kansas City, so he'll always be involved. James Robinson, ETN are splitting the backfield. Robinson's had the better first 2 games, seen a little bit more touches, but ETN is always there, so I don't think I'm going to get to anyone in the running back room. Receivers, love Mike Williams. Love him even more if Keenan Allen doesn't play. It looks like he's 50-50, so we'll have to keep an eye on this because that's huge news, because if Allen's out, I think Michael Williams becomes an absolute lock, just like Stephon Diggs. And then I do think you're going to need a piece on the other side like Christian Kirk, who's been fantastic the first 2 games. That really does it for me. If Allen is out, I'd also take a shot. You could definitely do a double stack with Mike Williams and Gerald Everett, who's been very involved. But if Allen's back, I do think that really limits Gerald Everett and slightly to Mike Williams. Green Bay, Tampa Bay. I think this is my favorite game to stack. I don't think a lot of people are going to be on it. Don't think a lot of people are going to be playing Aaron Rodgers for good reason. Sammy Watkins is on the IR, so it looks like they're just be pounding the ball the whole time with the running backs. Love Tom Brady. I know Mike Evans is suspended. It looks like Julio Jones might not play, so they're going to have a bunch of backup wide receivers. They're bringing up Cole Beasley, but that's pretty much what he had in New England. He had those quick short passes to the little small wide receivers. So I think Tom Brady will be fine. Not a lot of people will be on him. He's going to throw the ball a ton. He saw 27 and then 34. Expect him to throw 35 plus times this game. So really like Tom Brady here at 6K. really expect a bounce back game, and a lot of the people are not going to be playing, so we can definitely take advantage of the low ownership. Aaron Jones should be popular. It'd be smart to put him in a lineup or two if you're going to looking for a running back. He's not going to be super popular amongst the public, but he has huge upside. He is splitting with AJ Dillon, so you could always take the shot on AJ Dillon. I know Aaron Jones had the better game last game, but AJ Dillon pretty much got the same number of snaps as Aaron Jones, and they're going to be running the ball a ton against Tampa to try to slow the game down. So don't mind taking a shot on AJ Dillon over Aaron Jones. Leonard Fournette looks great at 6,500. They're going to rely on him to run the ball as well as be involved in the passing game. So like him as a stack with Tom Brady, even though most of the time that's not optimal, but when you're going to be heavily involved in both running and passing, really like Leonard Fournette. I just got to keep an eye on on the hamstring, but one of my favorite plays of the day right there. And I guess you could put AJ Dillon up there for me as like a nice contrarian play off of Aaron Jones. Mike Evans out, Chris Godwin got ruled out, so we're looking at Julio Jones questionable. It looks like he might not play. If he does play, he may be limited, with his knee issue. Russell Gage questionable. This is the biggest question mark on the slate, is this wide receiver room for Tampa Bay. Do think it's going to open up a ton of value. Brashad Perriman saw 5 targets that second game. Scotty Miller saw 8. I mean, you can definitely take a shot on guys like this. Run a low-owned stack with Tom Brady. Really think we could take advantage of this. Cole Beasley got activated to the roster, so it looks like those might be the 3 wide receivers for you: Perriman, Scotty Miller, Beasley. You can always take a shot on Cam Brate as well. Tom Brady will probably rely on him a little bit more because he is the veteran of that group, along with Scotty Miller. So a lot of interest in that Tampa Bay room. Green Bay side, really only like Lazard. Do think he's going to be relied heavily upon from Aaron. He is a veteran wide receiver for them. And then Tanyan, you can always take a shot there, but don't think I'm going to get there. To finish it off, the last 2 games, Rams, Arizona, going to be another popular one to stack. Kyler Murray, 7,300. He has that rushing upside, rushing touchdowns, as well as the passing upside. So easily in play. Same with Matt Stafford. He doesn't have the rushing upside, but we know we're going to see him throw probably 35 plus times this game. Should be a close game. Not sure. Arizona's been terrible, but they did come back and beat the Raiders. James Conner, questionable. If it wasn't his ankle, I would definitely take a shot if he does play, but I think I'm going to avoid it just because of that questionable ankle. Was out that last game. It was the perfect game script for him. He probably already seen 10 plus targets in that second half versus the Raiders, but unfortunately got injured right at the beginning of the second half. Henderson and Akers, it looks like they're now fully splitting. Akers had, 18, 17 touches. Henderson's 10. So it looks like Akers is now probably the lead back. So you could take that dart throw there, but not too happy with that. Going to give it one more week and then kind of see from what happens from that. Cooper Kupp, 9,900. I mean, you know what you're getting from him. Don't have to go over that. You can always take a shot on Allen Robinson. Had a decent game last game. Do expect him to get a little bit more involved, but I think he's seen like 4 or 5 red zone targets. I think he's tied for the most red zone targets through the first 2 games, so he's a huge red zone threat. Could always get you points that way with touchdowns. Dortch looks like a great value play. Great, past 2 games. Only 4 targets against Las Vegas. You would expect that to be more with, how depleted their wide receiver room is, but he did get a touchdown. I do think a lot of people will be off him this week, but 4,300, second wide receiver for Arizona, really like that. Rondale Moore is still out. Marquise Brown saw 11 targets, only caught 6 of them for 68 yards. Did drop a touchdown. They also called him down at like the 1. He could have had a massive game, didn't, but he's firmly in play at 6,000. Looks like a great play for this game. And then tight ends. Higbee's been the second guy for Matt Stafford to throw to. 20 targets the first 2 games, so he's definitely involved and definitely should be looked to play. Or you should definitely look to play him 4,500. Same thing with Zach Ertz. Had a slow first half last game and then picked it up in the second half. Once again, both tight ends are heavily relied upon in this past game through the first 2 weeks for both teams, so I really like both of them. And then last game of the last game of the slate, Atlanta, Seattle. You could always take a shot on Mariota. He does have that rushing upside. Seattle's defense is not good. He can pass the ball, so not a bad dart throw punt play for Mariota. Patterson is going to be involved, running the ball and catching it. Didn't have a good game last game, but Do expect a little bit of a bounce back there. I have no interest in them, but you can definitely take that dart throw. Walker, Penny, Homer, they're all splitting. Don't think I'm going to get to any of those running backs. DK, I mean, the wide receivers for the Seattle just doesn't interest me with Geno Smith throwing to them. But, I mean, you can go there if you want. I just don't think it's worth it. You can get to other guys in the slate in better spots. Same thing with Lockett, obviously. Drake London, do have a little bit of interest in him. It's 7 targets, 12 targets. You know, had great first 2 games. Don't have any interest in the other wide receivers on Atlanta or Seattle. Tight end room, no interest in the Seattle tight ends, but Kyle Pitts, don't mind taking a dart throw shot there. I know he's been horrible this year, didn't score a touchdown last year. They're not feeding him the ball, which everyone's pretty upset about. I know the coach did come out and say, like, we're trying to win games, not win fantasy games. So maybe they do get him involved this game. You can take a shot there on the sentiment of, you know, him hopefully looking to provide, I know, a lot better than 3.9 points the first 2 games, but I don't mind taking a shot there. I'll probably have him in a lineup or 2. Expect him to get, you know, probably close to 7, if not more targets this game against Seattle. And that does it for me today, guys. Yeah, there's a good amount of games I'd like to target. I think my favorite is that Tom Brady one. I just don't think a lot of people are going to be on it. It's not the best game environment. You know, the Tampa D is, or both these are pretty good. So it could be a slow and ugly game, but really like the upside with those wide receivers. A lot of value there. I think that's where I'm going to lean and try to get different because that's how I play. I play super, super different to try to get contrarian against the field, and we'll see if it works. Yeah, so if you liked the video, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.